One, two. So the
Hello, welcome to the first LouisTunes chat. So today I'm joined by the wonderful Julius. Now you may have seen Julius in the Broadway cast of Frozen or The Greatest Showman. This is me! And you may see him very soon in the remake of West Side Story.
She's so exhausted. Such an early day for her.
West Side Story. So you're in the film remake. How exciting! As a part, great. Tell us how your experience of that was.
So this new Steven Spielberg remake, is also written by Tony Kushner, who a lot of people know him from Angels in America and God knows what else he's done. And I bring his name up because he wrote a screenplay and a script that, no offense to the original West Side Story, the original West Side Story really only caters to the Jets' point of view and perspective. They give the Puerto Ricans, the Sharks, that demographic, our culture, our people, a completely respectable and honestly, what it really was like for them from their point of view as well. And I think that's what's so wonderful about this film is that not only do you get the classic music of just what the musical always is, the screenplay is still stylized with, buddy boy and all that kind of jargon, but it's conversations that need to be had, and most importantly, conversations that really were having then, but just a bit less of a theatrical aspect to it.
And how was working with Spielberg?
He's a genius.
Legend.
I love how introverted he is when he's in between takes. He'll walk back and forth and assess everything that just happened on the film. And then he'll come back from the break or when they're changing the set over or they're fixing the camera, whatever they're doing, or the lens. And he'll be like, I need lens 51 with this wide this, and then a 27 this, and a 42 that, and all of us on set were like, oh yes, a 47. The 47 would be great for this. Oh, 27, that sounds divine. I think that's gonna really capture the depth of the, he's just so good at what he does, and it's so exciting because, they showed us a clip of not the actual film because Steven is very adamant about not showing his talent or anybody really the final product. What really tickled me was that the way that you see the flying cranes and you see him sitting and then you see the cameras and you see everything going on, those are the same images and the same videos that I remember growing up watching when I watched Jurassic Park or when I saw Indiana Jones, and then you see the behind the scenes footage of how they do it. But wildly enough, this time I'm actually in the frame. He's old school in the sense that everything is so cinematic. Everything is so big. We always had 200 to 400 background, large real sets, but everything was built and catered and tailored and I guess you could say costumed in New York City. So it made me really appreciate New York and see some of the most glorious alleyways we have ever seen, because everything that we do is always in an alley, but also some of the most beautiful parts about New York, and it just is, it's really refreshing.
And you're not new to filming as well, because you did The Greatest Showman.
I did. But what was so wild about Greatest Showman was that I was a featured principal dancer on that. And this one, I was very lucky enough to be able to book a new role called Kike, which is Bernardo's best friend. In the original film, if you see in the opening prologue, you'll see Bernardo and there's two guys next to him. Those two guys are fully realized now, as well as the rest of the Sharks. It blows my mind because I'm like, wow, you're really gonna see my face. Wow, you're gonna hear me speak. You're gonna hear me, and it's just I don't know. I don't know. I'll just see when it comes down.
So how was working with obviously the new Maria? She's new, isn't she? She's 18-year-old. She kind of went viral, didn't she, with the Shallow video?
That's right.
You had quite a close relationship with her, didn't you?
We did. I always have a tendency to not saying that I'm the oldest one in the batch, because I'm not. But I definitely have been in this industry at a really young age, as far as jumping right into it right out of high school. But I always, since I guess my teacher, my inner like big brother, always likes to make sure that the younger cast or the people who are, you know, not as old of us feel safe. And Rachel and I got really close. She's wonderful. When we first met, she had just graduated high school. And I believe the day that she graduated high school, they postponed the class musical to be the last weekend of school. Could be wrong. I was like, and then the next day, she started rehearsals. So I don't believe that girl's going to have anyone of a normal life once this film comes out, because she's wonderful, she's talented, and even though like 3 weeks into rehearsal or 2 weeks into rehearsal, she turned 18. What a life. And I remember there were some scenes that we had to do, especially some of the more severe scenes, and especially that famous final Maria scene, where she was so centered and she was so calm and she was so focused, but she was so kind and still herself in between takes. We're dealing with some serious material here. And especially, you know, we all know what, if you don't know what happens at the end of West Side Story, she handled it like a true professional. And I remember being on set and learning so much from her, and being that even though this was her first film, let alone playing Maria, like she is honestly born and bred to be in this industry, and she is absolutely wonderful. There is this stigma about musical theater or theater professionals transitioning onto the big screen that won't have enough pull for the world to watch. But luckily for us, this film, the big name obviously is Steven. But I am so grateful because this movie is legit from head to toe. People who have been training and have been doing this their entire career and lives, and you can feel it the minute the cameras are on. You felt it every single day for those 8 weeks of rehearsal, every morning ballet class at 9 a.m., every day, even on set. And it was just like a vocabulary, a family that really, like, the discipline was, and the integrity was beyond anything I could have ever worked on before. In reality, I mean, like, who knows what the climate will be in December. But for me personally, I would much rather, I mean, it would blow, to wait another year to hopefully, if there's a vaccine, to hopefully having this world be in a way better mind space, to be in public spaces like that, to not walk but run to the theater the way that it made you feel like before streaming it became a thing, before all Netflix, before all these things. People wanted to go to the theater because it was a cinematic experience, like he told us. He, you know, God forbid it, who knows if it goes to video on demand, but one thing he did say though is that this movie is meant to be full body experience.
So what has been your favorite theater job?
To be honest, I think my favorite theater job, at least on Broadway, must have been Finding Neverland. I'm biased because yes, I got a chance to be part of the original creation of it, also like the original groundwork of choreography, as I was one of Mia Michaels' main assistants and dance captains, onstage dance captain in that show. So I got the best of both worlds of being on and off stage. But there's just something so magical about Peter Pan and the way that, you know, when they brought it over to the States, it was just the pure magic of it. It was the pure magic of it, of the music and the magic in the show and the element of Tinkerbell in the show. And most importantly, just like the element of imagination and the way that that show makes you feel. And also to the story itself, you know, of how Peter Pan became, or the boy who wouldn't grow up, became alive. I think the advice I would give my younger self would be to always make it about the craft, to always understand that, you know, my mom would tell me growing up, rest in peace, rest her soul, that, and she would say it in Spanish, si lo vas a hacer, hacerlo con gana. If you're gonna do something, you're gonna do it with gana, means will, with willpower. Typically meaning if you're gonna do something, you're gonna be the best at it right then and there. I didn't know I was gonna be a professional dancer. I didn't know I was even gonna be dancing. You know, a background of my story, and I hate to use this because it's not a crutch, but people see my life what it is now, but I used to live in a homeless shelter for a little over a year with my younger brother, my older sister, and my mom. And the reality is that when I was living in that scenario, I may have had nothing, but I had my family, and I had one thing, which was the desire to never leave a dance room. The desire to always want to be surrounded by art, surrounded by people that made me feel that I was someone else from what was happening behind the curtain. And to really tell my younger self that if you genuinely work hard for it and you put the work into it, all of my dreams have become true because I never stopped. I didn't know I was going to be at the point where I'm at now, except for one thing, realizing that, I thought I was doing this for my mom for so long. And then once I lost her, I derailed and didn't know how to focus my life. And now re-engineering it, it's just always about the craft. Because if you can look back at it, you can at least say that you honestly, by flying aces and flying scores, that you can look back and regret nothing. Being in New York City during the entire pandemic, pretty much, there was a moment where I started feeling resentment towards New York, towards this industry, because I was hurt by it. I was hurt by the fact that, we're going to be, us as entertainers, are really going to be the last ones in consideration to be put back to work. Once Broadway had shut down, and like maybe 3 days in, Frozen came shuffling on in my iPad or my Spotify. And I was literally in the liquor store getting a bottle of wine, and you hear na 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 hey na, and I'm like na ya, and I just start bawling in the middle of the store. When I started realizing that we couldn't do it anymore, I started feeling that I had nothing to offer the world. And it made me very uncomfortable. It made me very sad. I felt like I had no identity. And it really was like a huge, huge eye-opener. Of everything that we've done in our careers has been wonderful, but then now it's so quick to see that our careers are vanished. That who knows how long this really will be. So it's just like, it's scary. It's very scary. So for me to cope, it's just been trying to figure out moves, and most importantly, emotionally, keep my family close, because you just never know, one. And two, it's like we're so caught up. I'm always making excuses for not keeping in touch with my family sometimes, because I'm always so overloading myself with trying to keep myself super thin or spread myself super thin. And I leave them in the back burner. That's not the case now. So I'm just really trying to see everything that I've done in the past and what I need to do in the future, and really combine both those things so I can really kind of just make some other moves, and also see, where else this world will lead us. Our generation's moving forward in this digital era is fascinating to me. I think that's really cool. But there's just the lack of connection, not being in the room with somebody. And that to me provides a disconnect. We love to perform, but there's a bigger message and a bigger issue going on here that takes all of us to put through together. Coming back to New York now and seeing like what it's like prides me to know that people, when you do put in the work, it does happen to work out. Unfortunately, our country is far from putting in the work. So the advice that I would give, as far as auditions go, I've been very fortunate enough to obviously be not only in front of the table, because that's obviously the most of our careers, but behind it for different things. The number one thing you got to remind yourself is that everyone behind that table wants nothing more than for you to be that part. They're rooting for you before you start even making yourself cast yourself out. The only thing you have control over is making sure your music is on point, your sides are on point, and your personality is just true and exciting. You just want to go in there like you're a star, or knowing what your product is. Like, I know for me, being a person of color on Broadway definitely has gotten me through the door, because Broadway has gotten very progressive, and luckily enough in Frozen, when they casted me, like Frozen was unbelievably mixed of a cast from principals down. But I know that for me, I love being in a room. I love having the opportunity to showcase my talent. And as nervous as I may be, I'm grateful to be able to even have this chance. And I hope I let them know that by feeling that. So really, it's before you cast yourself out, just know that they want you to be that part, 1. 2, be prepared beyond all belief. 3, when you go into dance calls, study the room the way that you would study an exam. Know who looks like you. For me, I'm like, if I see, I mean, I have a lot of other, like, you know, people of color friends, especially other cute brown boys. And I'm like, wow, you're really good. What group are you in? You're in the first group? Oh my God, so am I. And then when they call group 1, I don't show up for group 1 because I know cute brown boy number 2, 3, and 4 are going to go into that group, and I'm going to try to separate myself and go in a different group so I know that I can be casted and look in that group singularly. All you can do is just put good energy out there, because the rest of it has nothing to do with you. Watch Drag Race, which is I'm a huge fan of.
Talk about Drag Race though. Who do you want to win All Stars?
There's only really one winner. Her name is Shea Coulee. Shea Coulee's amazing. But if there's anyone else who's been my OG, because I'm OG Drag Race in season 1, I'm watching the Canadian one. I've seen the UK one. Like, I respect and love entertainers that are called drag queens because they really are magicians. But Jujubee is also my other favorite. I tell people and close friends like you that I commend you for just being so positive and still finding, you know, the energy and the charisma to be able to do something with Make-A-Wish or BLM or whatever, but just creating a platform for people to find inspiration. Because I know for me, that's been really hard for me to generate myself during this quarantine. So you're doing the Lord's work, and I just cannot be any more thankful and grateful. Yes?
She's awake now.
Hello.
Hello,
Morning. I was like, hey girl, I look like John Lennon. Anyways, I adore you. Go do your thing.